So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, this is going to be simple drum talk. So, if anybody has any questions and things they might want to talk about, and that could be anything from getting started, being in a rut. Is that the dog? She's biting my foot. Yeah, Labradors. Tuning, any of that stuff. What should I be practicing? Coming up with a plan. I mean, some of the young guys right now, I often think of this, like, what would I do if I was just starting out? I can just remember being, here, boo boo, want a carrot? There you go. She's putting her head. Younger and just being enthralled with, drumming, modern drumming, of course, in high school, ninth, 10th grade, you're in bands when you're playing clubs at that point. And those were the days where you played, you could play 5 to 7 nights a week. That's just where it was at. 5 sets a night after a day job as a brick mason. So yeah, I mean, for me that worked because I wanted to play stuff that I really wanted to play. I didn't want to be in a situation where I gotta do this, I gotta do that. So yeah, having a day thing was good, especially at the time. So yeah, you're playing clubs, and the best thing to do, I personally think, is just to get out there and do it, learn by your failures, get up, solve the problem, keep moving. But I would say to younger players, learn the language, learn your rudiments, spend the time, learning the stickings, your rudiments. There's, several different stickings, for rudiments. Is supposedly 26 rudiments, but there's a lot of combinations that you can use. So, pay attention to accents and unaccented notes, because that's the magic elixir that really opens up the drum set language. If you played everything on the same level, it just wouldn't seem that good. Music certainly isn't like that. Music sort of, bobs and weaves a little bit. And a great vocalist, there's a place in that tune, maybe it's the chorus where there's a climax, and it's like, wow. And same with great players, especially great drummers. You're playing, you're coming out of a chorus and bang, back into an A section where you flam and crack, and it's the intensity is still there, but it's at a much lower volume. And that gradually gets louder. So I would say spend your time learning the language, that's rudiments, and then spend your time playing as much as you can and meeting as many people as you can, and just being a super nice person. That's going to get you pretty much further than anything. Being able to cut the gig and being extremely pliable is a good thing. The older you get, the less pliable you become, I think. Depends, but I have a business too, so I look at things through that scope all the time. Hold on a second. Come over here. Okay. Why don't you say hello? Come up here. Come up, up. Yeah, I don't have anything for her, so she's not gonna come up. Hi. Say hi. You a good girl. Huh? So yeah, those are very, very important things. Like I said, I grew up in a sort of a construction kind of family, so I create things with stone. I build beautiful patios, and that's been a livelihood. So I've done that, and I initially started it so when I was taken off to go do a wedding or a corporate function, heading out of the state or wherever I was headed, I could do that and didn't have to be listening to a boss telling me what I needed to do. I couldn't do it. So that's a good thing. So yeah, my learning curve has never stopped. I've never stopped wanting to do something every day, pick up something new, write out something, whether it was a melody, whatever it was, and work on that stuff. And for a long time, I was really into the rudimental thing and all the Joe Morello stuff and the books and the Charlie Wilcox and stuff. And I just would sit in front of a mirror and watch those hands exact. And I'm super strict about how I teach that now. Even just doing a paradiddle, it's amazing to me. I filled in for somebody teaching at a place, and these kids, is like 12 of them. I kind of filled in for a while. They said, "If you want the job, it's yours." And I was like, it was hard for me. I have to admit, these kids were coming in, and they either knew everything that there was to know about drumming, or they were just so overscheduled. These 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, they're overscheduled, doing 90 different things. And I said, well, I can tell. I said, because you should be really, really good. You've been taking lessons for 2 years and you don't know how to hold your sticks correctly. You can't read simple eighth notes, 16th, and Vic Firth, 1, 2, any of that stuff. So what I find is there's a lot of guys that teach, by, da, 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 do, do, and they do this, and they, the kid watches them, and then they do it, and they have fun, and he goes home, and they have no recollection of their dialogue and what they're doing. So I strongly feel, here's another positive must. Learn how to read. It's not that difficult. If you can figure out there's 4 quarters in a dollar and 2 50-cent pieces, you can definitely learn to read. It's not that hard. Even if it's just Vic Firth 1 or a little bit of Louis Bellson or Ted Reed in your rudiments. It's really all you need. I mean, yeah, eventually you're going to look at some charts, and you're going to, if you went into the studio, you'd learn how to read a chord chart. Simple. Yeah, it's a rock feel. It might not be written out for you. Yeah, it's a rock. Okay, great. It's a rock feel. Some section figures and maybe an ensemble figure here or there if you're playing a big band chart and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's important. Reading is very, very important. I don't need somebody to teach me how to play this and that. I can see it. I can buy it on my own, see it, embellish on it. I've written a few books. It's a great tool to have it, and you should have it in your back pocket. There's some people that can't read, and they're great players. Having great ears and having the ability to read is definitely a plus. And then the other thing is really know your history. Listen to as many of, Kenny Clark, Art Taylor, Billy Cobham, before that Chick Webb, and those guys, Philly Joe Jones, Papa Joe Jones, Louis Bellson, Art Blakey, they say Max Roach, all those guys, Joe Morello, Alan Dawson, listen to those guys. And I'll be honest, I mean, sometimes I think, yeah, that was really slick. I ain't doing anything new. And I haven't for, 40 years. Everything that we do now, Tony Williams, did I say Buddy Rich? They've all done. Some of these guys, you go back, listen to Art Taylor and some of these other cats. I mean, Sonny Payne, Ed Thigpen. We're not doing anything new. These guys have already done it. We're just kind of, we may have a different take on something, but a lot of these guys have done this stuff. Yeah. So I would go back to that. Make sure you know a little bit of your history. Some of my, she doesn't even work. Some of my old teachers, like Alan Dawson and Gary Chafee, Bob Galati, David Garibaldi, Joe Picaro, Ralph Humphrey, Casey Sherrill, Ralph Peterson, Gene Romo, all play a very, very pivotal role for me in my learning. I got a lot out of the stuff with Gary Chafee and Alan Dawson. I mean, he, amazing. I never knew how just amazing he was. Wow. I mean, and I watched video clips of him today, and I was like ninth grade, 10th grade when I studied with him. Yeah, and I think that's another great tool. Having somebody that you're accountable to, especially in those days. Like if you were late for your lesson, that's what you got. You were 10 minutes late, you got 20 minutes, or if you're doing an hour, you got, 50 minutes. If you were late more than once, you were pretty much gone. There was always a list of people wanting to take lessons with Alan and Gary and Bob Galati. Those are the three treasures, like in the Boston area. So yeah, they each taught me something very, very specific and different. And then I kind of, you take it on your own a little bit. It's very, very important to have some basic mechanics and then express that language onto your kit. And always listen. You're always listening, whether you're playing in a rock band, you're listening to the vocalists. When I got out of school, I went to Berkeley for a year because at the time there was really no drum teachers. There was 83. Alan, Gary had left. They had one guy, I won't mention his name, but it didn't interest me. And he was a good player. Just he had one thing only, and that was all it was about. And at the time, I really wasn't into bop, so to speak. I loved it. I loved Elvin. He's always been one of my favorites. But I was a little more into sort of, I guess, fusion-y stuff. I was coming from a rock, fusion-y place. And that was, I think at Berkeley, it was the first time I might have heard Dixie Dregs, one of my friends. I think we went in TMI, smoked a joint in his dorm or something. I wasn't living there. I didn't do it. And he's, you got to check this out. And it was Dixie Dregs. And I was like, damn. Wow. That was interesting because it was a little Rod Morgenstein, great player. A little bit of country, a little bit of funk, a little R&B, that Southern thing. They were great bit. And that kind of like started opening my eyes to different people. From there, we had a hometown hero, basically, in my neck of the woods with Steve Smith from Journey and Vital Information and all the other countless stuff that he's done. So, yeah, I knew of him. I checked him out all the time, followed his career from Jean-Luc Ponty to obviously Journey and beyond. And, those group, our forefathers really left us that next generation, Vinny, Steve, J.R. Robinson. There's a million of them, Peter Erskine. There's a million of them. Excuse me. And, I'm into everybody. Personally, but when I left school, then I went to PIT shortly after, and that's where I studied with Joe Picaro and Ralph Humphrey and those guys, Steve Houghton, Chuck Flores, Efren Toro, really interesting guy. He's pretty amazing, and that's when I studied with David Garibaldi out there for a little bit. And then when I came home, I kind of, a little break, weird little thing, got on a cruise ship and stayed on there for a year or so. And that was definitely an interesting learning curve. So, that's where my roots were sort of in that R&B, jazz. I played with a 70s hit group, Tavares, short notice gig. Guy quit, went to the Beaver Brown Band. Was on a Friday, was doing a gig on a Sunday. I had no idea who they were. All right, well, give me the stuff and I'll cram it and write some stuff out. There was no stopping, all show stuff, which was cool because on the cruise ship, there was nothing but that. It was all like sort of reading shot, everything, boom, into something. The dancers are dancing, Then comes the magician and a banjo player, and you're reading those charts, and a lot of different experiences. you were playing 5, 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you were having to learn how to play. I was 21, I think, 21, and everybody else was at least 45. Very experienced, great jazz players. I kind of keep in touch with a few of them today. And the bass player especially, he was probably, I'm 60, he's probably 80. So anyway, he was great player, and the trumpet player was from my town. So he was like, yeah, don't worry, I think I got a chair or something thrown at me the first week. But I mean, it was a lot to do. You're taking on a big challenge of reading everything, shows, different artists coming on board. Yeah, playing all the music that needed to be played, whether it was from waltzes to. So that's kind of cool. I mean, in a way, in 6 months I had to really get my shit together, and I did. It was a great challenge for me to do that at a young age, and a lot of people don't really get to do that. And then I started doing corporate stuff because that's kind of where the money was. But playing in Tavares, working full time, heading into New York City to do a show, come out, had to work the next day, and then on the weekend I might be playing with a reggae band. The reggae band I was working with a vocalist friend of mine who was just outstanding. And that situation taught me a great deal as well, because I don't know about some of you guys that are even older than 60. I mean, some of you, Ringo was, boom, your mentor and the one that just opened everybody's eyes at that, if you were maybe 70. Another great player, totally different thing, great player. So, yeah, it just, that's kind of where it headed to. The reggae thing I just thought was extremely interesting because I was so used to playing a lot that now I'm like, for me it was Stuart Copeland. The first time I heard Stuart Copeland, I was just like, I think it was 79, 8, 9. I think I was playing in my room to some, maybe Aerosmith or something. And I heard that come on. Oh, I'm like, holy shit. Who is this guy? And, so the reggae thing was big to me. I stuck on that for 5, 6 years. And unfortunately, the singer in the band had issues. He was a heroin addict, and I didn't really know. I never really had been around that. And he was a nice enough guy to have spared me that. He hit it very well. He had a lot of respect for me, and we did a lot of stuff. It was a sad ending to that, but we did a lot of stuff. Colleges, we did record a couple things, which were great, real great. They were just, and it's funny because at that time you're getting out of a school, you think you're all that, and a bag of chips, and here you got 4 guys here. None of them have really a music education, but what they did have was a goal and the fire in their belly. You can't replace a goal and a fire in your belly. You can't replace it. I don't care where you went to school and how good your chops are. It doesn't matter. It took me a little while to look at that and be like, we're all on the same level here. I'm sort of, I felt like I was coming down a little bit in musicality wise, but I really wasn't. Because they allowed me to do my thing, which meant sort of, we were playing a rock steady kind of thing, which is basically a 1 and 3. They let me funk it up a little bit, a tiny bit, but I always tried to, keep everything. Sometimes you might just be playing quarter notes with the bass drum and come down on a 3, which you might be coming on the bass drum on the 3 and playing the upstroke. So we worked out a little arrangement, but that was really a fun gig. And then from there, it was just doing corporate stuff, weddings, soul bands, horn bands, lots of recording. I had a good opportunity to work out of about 3 or 4 different recording studios, but it's different when if you're not in the union in New York or LA, it's a different thing. it's when, the 90s, like 90, through the 90s, there was a lot of that in the middle of the, late 80s. There was a lot of that stuff. And then as soon as the drum machine stuff started coming out, and the Lindrum and this drum and that drum, they became less of it. Became less and less of it, and people were like, I've played with some pretty cool people, some well-known people, but I never met them. I never met them because I was always the last one in, replacing something. But I think there was more room for, can you play on there's an artist compilation thing, there's 15 artists, can you play? Yeah, can you throw me $1,000? I mean, I got to play 15 tunes, I got to prepare for it, I'm going to write my own charts out, I got the music, blah, blah, blah. Joe down the street that works at Zildjian will do it for $500. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not a barterer. I'm not a good barterer. You have to know yourself, your worth. You do have to know your worth. And I know I did it. I did it a couple times. You're always thinking, well, if you're on and a couple of them did pretty well. A couple of the girls did very well. But these people, they developed their own things, and they didn't really call you back unless unless he was producing the record again, and it was their CD. Then he might call you back. But then he's gonna, well, you do the record, it's gonna get a lot of notoriety. Can you do it for $200? I've heard millions of stories. The business is definitely different now. So again, that was a long-winded explanation of having a plan. Have a plan. That's all. Have a plan. And whatever you do, just do it to the best of your ability with joy and compassion, and you'll be fine. Whatever happens is sort of meant to happen. I mean, you're not going to do a gig and then hide under your bed. You're gonna do a gig, and you're gonna maybe on Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, you're gonna hit a blues jam. Go there and have some fun with the blues. Have a beer with the guys. Get to know some people. Go home. Call the guys that you played with. If you're a good player, they'll call you. They'll say, "Oh man, you sounded good," and you keep those contacts. You check in every now and then. Something may come up, but there are a lot less gigs than there used to be. Like I said, you could play 5 to 7 nights, and now it's not nearly like that. After COVID, 4 years ago, I left the group that I had been playing with for about 15 years. We were doing nothing but corporate stuff. It was good. You throw on a suit and tie. You play with some great players. We didn't rehearse much. I loved them all. Good players. You made $500. If you stayed someplace, you probably made $650. You got that taken care of, some food and whatever. So it was cool, but you kind of get used to that money, and then other things aren't so interesting to you anymore. You start getting involved if you have kids or you have a home life and that thing. You start doing that stuff. But I've definitely I'm diving back into like the education thing is kind of what I got more into, because I think it's important to share that stuff as I do things a little bit differently in my way of coming up with grooves. Definitely comes from probably a lot of Galati, Bob Galati, a little bit of Alan, and a lot of Gary Chafee, some Casey Sherrill thrown in there for some spice, and lots of Garibaldi. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, and I feel it's important to get that out there now, and that's my path. And I do a few gigs here and there, and mostly because I'm picky about what I want to do. I don't want to just go out and sit at a blues jam on Monday for 4 hours, although I used to do that a lot in Nashville at Rudy's Jazz Room, and that was fun. It's my favorite place. Favorite. People there are just so cool. I sat in a couple times. They didn't know me. And all of a sudden, people are calling. And I was only there for 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, man, I could stay here. But I didn't. Came back home. Now it's about 5 or 6 years ago. But I love visiting that place often. It's a cool place. if you're ever in Nashville, check out Rudy's Jazz Room. Lots of great players, man. Great players. But anyway, so till next time, this was a little bit of a long-winded one. So if you want, let's, I want to kind of continue this a little bit. If you'll have me, I talk with my hands. I'm Italian. And you know, it's a sincere thing, you know, it's cool passing on some stuff, telling people some stories. Let's do some drum tuning. Let's do that. If you have any questions, just say hi. That's all. Say hello. Say, yeah, man, I was thinking, what about this? What about that? I'm 18. I'm 25. I'm doing this kind of thing. And what do you think? You know, I've run a business for about 40 years, so I'm pretty good at that whole aspect as well. And that comes into my thought process when I'm playing with a band as well. You know, somebody new, they're all coming down. Everybody, and my first question is, well, what's the business plan? I don't really want to get together 3 nights a week to rehearse and to play. You guys want to play? You want to rehearse 3 times a week and play 1 gig every 2 months? Okay, that's probably not the band for me. I want to play 3 nights a week and rehearse once every 2 months. Now, that's not to say everybody these days puts in their own time. And I'm all for, if you want to get a tight band, because I think that's one thing that's missing. People getting together once or twice a week and shedding it out. Get that band tight. All your bands, Chick Corea, no matter who it is, 8 hours a day. They're practicing 8 hours a day. 4 weeks, bang, they're out. They're out playing gigs, and they, ridiculous, just amazing. Rest in peace, Mr. Correa. Yeah, he was great. Anyway, so yeah, any questions? Just reach out, and we'll chat then. All right. Remember, michaelidrums.com. Check out Unlocking Your Creative Potential and some of the downloads that are available. Definitely super helpful. And if you have questions to buy one of them, just hit me up. All right, man. Take care.